right, welcome everybody. It is October 6th, first book club meeting of the month. We are reading from the Poetic Eddas still, and tonight we're reading the Alvíssmál, the words of all wise. If anybody wants to go ahead and get started, they can go ahead, and we're going to just start with beginning here. In Alvíssmál, a dwarf named All-Wise visits the home of Thor with the intent of marrying his daughter. Thor disapproves and occupies the dwarf by asking him numerous questions of mythological trivia, namely what various peoples, the Aesir, the Vanir, humans, dwarves, elves, etc., call different phenomenon or of heaven and earth. The dwarf successfully answers all of his questions, but at the end it is revealed that Thor has been stalling for time, waiting for the sun to come up and turn the unlucky suitor to stone.
All-Wise said, "Get the benches ready. Now I'm coming home with a bride in tow. It may not seem likely to others around me, but I won't sleep when I get home."
Thor said, "Who is this man? Why are you so pale around the nostrils? Did you spend the night with a corpse? It seems to me you have a monster's appearance. You have no business seeking a bride."
All-Wise said, "I am named All-Wise. I live beneath the earth, on my underground estate. I came to visit you, Thor, lord of the goat chariot. No one will make me retract my words."
"I will decide that, since I am the bride's father, and it's I who gets to say about her. I was not home when she was promised to you. The girl is my daughter and a goddess."
"Who is this man who speaks for the beautiful lady? You scoundrel, probably no one would defend you. Who gave you those rings that you wear?"
"I am named Thor. I am a wide-traveled man, and son of long-bearded Odin. If I don't consent, you'll never get the girl. You'll stay unmarried forever."
"I'd like to have your consent, and I'd certainly like the bride. I would rather have her than have to live without that girl who's lovely as snow."
This girl's love will never...
Go ahead. "This girl's love will never be yours, my clever guest, if you dare to leave this house without telling me what I want to know about every realm."
"Tell me, All-Wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What is the earth called that people walk on in every world?"
All-Wise said, "Men call it earth. The Aesir call it soul. The Vanir call it road. Giants call it green. Elves call it grower. High gods call it clay."
Thor said, "Tell me, All-Wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call the sky swirling above us in every world?"
All-Wise said, "Humans call it heaven. The Aesir call it windland. The Vanir call it windmaker. Giants call it upworld. Elves say the high roof. Dwarves say the drip house."
Thor said, "Tell me, All-Wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call the moon? It's easy to see, in every world."
All-Wise said, "Humans call it moon, gods say changer, and hell they call it turning wheel. The giants call it hurry, the dwarves call it shiny, and elves say year counter.
Thor said, "Tell me, all wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call the sun? It's easy to see too, in every world."
All Wise said, humans call it sun, gods say southern ball, dwarves call it Devlin's Choi, giants say everglow, elves call it the beautiful wheel, the Aesir say all clear.
Thor said, "Tell me, all wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call the rain-making clouds in every world?"
Allwise said, humans say clouds, but gods say hope of rain. The Vanir call them wind floats, giants hope of hail, elves say weather causers, and hell they call them helmets of the hidden.
Thor said, "Tell me, all wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call the wind which travels so widely in every world?"
All Wise said, humans call it wind, the gods call it blower, the holy say noisemaker, giants call it the screamer, elves say noisy traveler, and hell they call it stormy.
Thor said, "Tell me, all wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call it when the wind stands still in every world?"
All Wise said, humans call it calm, the gods say unblowing. Vanir say wind stop, giants say stop blowing. Elves call it days sleep, but dwarves say days fent.
Thor said, "Tell me, all wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call the sea that boats are rowed on in every world?"
All Wise said, humans call it ocean, gods prefer the name sea. Vanir call it restful harbor. Giants say Elholm. Elves call it ore place, and dwarves say deep, deep sea.
Thor said, "Tell me, all wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call fire which burns before our eyes in every world?"
Allwise said, humans call it fire, the Aesir call it flame, the Vanir call it warmer, giants say the bold one, dwarves call it burner, mover is its name in hell.
Thor said, "Tell me, all wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call the woods that grow before our eyes in every world?"
All Wise said, humans call them the woods, but gods say wool of the plains. Other men call them hills, hilts. Giants call them firewood. Elves say pretty leaves. The Vanir call them wands.
Thor said, "Tell me, all wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call the night, child of Norby, in every world?"
All Wise said, humans call it night. Gods say the darkness. The holy gods say the masked one. Giants call it unlight. Elves say good to sleep in. Good to sleep in. Dwarves say queen of dreams.
Thor said, "Tell me, all wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call seed that is sown in the earth in every world?"
Allwise said, humans call it barley, gods say grain, Vanir call it grower, Giants say good eating. Elves call it things to make beer. In hell they call it sunken.
Thor said, "Tell me, All-Wise, since I think you know everything about every one, dwarf. What do they call the ale that everyone drinks in every world?"
All Wise said, humans call it ale, the Aesir call it beer, the Vanir call it wine, giants call it cleansing drink, but in hell they say mead. The giant sons of Sutting call it toast.
Thor said, "I've never seen a single creature who knew so much old lore, but I have deceived you, All-Wise, with a terrible lie. You're still up and it's dawn, dwarf. The sun shines in the hall."
And that's where it ends. Any thoughts on that one, friends? I'm looking at you, Mooney. You got your book out, your list. You got any questions up there?
I always take notes.
I know, I love it. I absolutely love it.
I always write things down. I was mostly just underlining all the things that the different peoples called the different things, because I thought it was interesting for that, and it also gives a future reference for me, so I remember for when it mentions something, maybe in another book or in another poem or whatever it is, this thing, when somebody else is talking, we're like, what does that mean? I could look back and be like, this.
Yeah, I enjoy that a lot too from the story, that all the different perspectives of what people call everything. Like, it was really fun to hear what the different groups called things.
It does. And I know it mentioned in the introduction that he waited for the sun so that All-Wise would turn to stone. So I have the question written above that. It's like, dwarves turn to stone in the sun? Question mark?
Right. I don't think I've ever heard of reference to that in any of the other things that I've read, as far as dwarf lore goes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's referenced in any other materials that I might, that I've not read yet.
Beast, I think that's your forte, sir.
Well, I don't know necessarily if it is in any of the other, like, I know that we do deal with the dwarf. I mean, we hear him in quite a few different stories, but it's a good question.
I haven't heard about it in the Poetic Eddas, but in Magnus Chase in the Gods of Asgard, spin-off of the Olympian series, there's a dwarf character who explains that he can't be out during the day because he'll turn to stone because he's an underground creature. I don't know if that's based off of anything, but I've seen it in other works of fiction.
I've seen it with trolls and other works of fiction and such, and a lot of it in a show that I mentioned a couple of sessions back of Hilda, that it has a lot of Norse references in it. They have the trolls that they're alive at night, and during the day they turn to stone. So I've seen it done with trolls, but never dwarves. So it's like, again, question mark as a whole of dwarfs, stone. What?
It's also the thing with the Hobbit, the trolls turn to stone when the sun comes up, but not the dwarves.
Exactly.
Dwarves were the origin of it. It got switched to trolls by Tolkien.
I was wondering that. Thank you for chiming in. Sorry.
Yep. So I was trying to earlier, but I forgot I was muted. Part of the lore is that the dwarves are the master smiths and master miners and masters of their crafts underground, they gave up the ability to walk in sunlight in exchange for the ability to craft. That's how they became the masters. Any dwarf in Norse lore, any dwarf who is touched by a ray of sunlight automatically turns to stone.
Very interesting.
That's
What a
something I'm
sacrifice
going
to
write
make for
down.
that.
The trolls were turned to stone with Tolkien. He's the one who started that nonsense. So,
Just out of plain curiosity for my notes over here and for anybody on the YouTubes that takes notes, who was it that they traded the... I wrote day work here in my notes for my remembrance for the craftsmanship. Who was it that bestowed the you're going to turn to stone in the daytime if you're outside in exchange for craftsmanship?
no one knows.
No one knows.
It's not part of the written lore so much. You can't go to this Ada or this saga and get all the details from it. It's one of the common things passed down in folklore. I'm sure there are 17 different stories from 19 different people as to how it originated, where it came from, who the dwarf was, who the god was, but that's all lost to time. And of course, with it being the verbal tradition at that point, it would most likely change from town to town.
Mm-hmm.
One town might tell you Loki tricked them and stole their ability to be in sunlight. One town might tell you it was a deal with Odin, the knowledge of the smithing in exchange for the walking in sunlight. One might tell you it was a bargain struck with Aegir. It all just depends on where you're from. So
That makes sense. That the lore would change. I mean,
It does.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense based on locations.
that's one of the big points with a lot of our stories and lore is a lot of them were written down by one person a couple hundred years after they were told around the campfire kind of thing. And Snorri wrote down one version of the tales that he was told. Each different town, it kind of like I explained it the other day, like the telephone game. When I tell you something and you tell it to him, it's going to change a little bit. And then when he tells it the next one down, it's going to change. And when he tells it the next one down, it's going to change. The overall idea behind the story doesn't change, but the characters, the places, the times, these might change further on down the line again. And as these people were hundreds of miles apart, and it all relied on the mental acuity of the skald that was telling the story, there were no fact checkers at that point in time. You didn't have Facebook to go on and say, this is the story, and have 19 people argue with you. So whatever story you told in this town is what that town knew of as the history. So, yeah.
That makes sense.
thank you.
Another question that I had written down in my little notes was he mentions the Aesir and the Vanir, etc. throughout, but in stanza 30, he mentions the holy gods, and I wondered, I'm like, what are those? Are they something different?
The High 12 of the Aesir, the High Court of the Aesir, are the Holy of Holies. And you're going to ask me to recite them off, aren't you?
You can if you want. I just like.
Hang on.
I love how you showed us your notes.
I'm gonna get out my big notebook and write them here because I don't have room in that in my book, which I need to transfer notes. But
That's why I like my binder notebooks, because I can always just add paper to them.
well, because I take notes inside my Edda. It's limited to space.
All right. The High 12, according to Snorri, was Odin, Thor, Njordur, Freyr, Freya, Tyr, Bragi, of course, Heimdallr, Hodur, Vidar, Bali, Uller, and Forseti.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The ninth one. Please spell that.
Hodur, Hodr.
I couldn't tell if it was a B or an L.
Yeah, he's the one who threw the dart that killed Baldur.
Ha. But that's what I mean. That's my question. That's the only questions I had off the top of my head. The rest of it was just me underlining what things were called in different places.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And Gothi Beast, thank you for your insight.
Of course.
Does anybody else have any feelings, thoughts, emotions on the reading we did tonight?
I think it humorous if you look at most of the descriptions by the giants. The names that everyone else calls whatever thing are these beautiful, extravagant, what they are, descriptive terms. What do the giants call the forest? Firewood.
Right.
The names that the giants have for things are humorous.
Yeah, the seed, the good eating.
Yeah. Yeah.
I enjoyed that as well.
It's either their job or something that's just like fairly obvious, like what they call the night unlight.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome and humorous. I like it too.
It definitely helps to propagate the ideal of the giants having stones in their heads.
The cleansing drink.
The stones, the dumb. Giants are stupid.
I mean, it is my cleansing drink. I won't lie.
The elves was pretty funny too. It has the giants as box of rocks and the elves as bimbo because pretty leaves.
Yeah.
Pretty leaves.
And shiny.
I could picture that movie. Shiny. Well, that was a good reading, guys. I enjoyed it a lot. We do have some choices before we let Craig go and we move on and let Craig go. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm moving at the end of this month. It's happening. It's a thing. So with that being said, we can plan our next watch party in the next 2 weeks here if we want, over the next couple weeks, before I pack it up in the packing boxes to go on the move and then don't know when we're going to find it again. Or we can wait till I'm settled in and in November sometime do our next watch party and continue wrapping up the Poetic Edda. Thoughts, feelings? Anybody care?
No.
Yeah, I'm getting that vibe too. So we'll just keep going. I'm seeing a couple of answers in our chat from our friends that are creepers tonight.
Okay.
Wait till we're settled. Whatever's easiest. I think we'll wait till I'm settled. I'll leave it in one of the boxes where I know where it's right at, so we can do it shortly in November because I know we're all getting that hankering for episode number 3. But I've missed you guys. I've missed reading and learning with you guys. It's been a couple weeks, I won't lie. And I'm really excited to get back in the swing of this too, and a book club going again. So I think we will move on to our next reading for next week, which I had that pulled up, but let me see if I still do. So many things on this computer. So, grouping 20. Baldur's Dwarmir? And then it looks like a man with the plan has us doing Stolthia at the same time. Oh, maybe if I put my glasses on, it helps, guys. Baldur's Dwarmir.
Yeah, the Baldur's Dream is pretty short, and then the next one is not too long, so we can do them both.
That's what I was looking at. I love how you have it set up in here, because I can see the numbers. So yeah, we're going to do this grouping 20, Baldur's Dwarmir, and Rigsthula. Oh, I can't even do it. Pardon me, friends. I'll post it in our chat as always. But unless anybody has anything else to talk about with this reading, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to our friends that are joining us either on the website or on YouTube. Good night, Craig.